Hello, hello. So today I'm going to be participating in a vinyl community challenge, which was set by none other than the Static Traveller, aka Alan. So this one goes out to you. So in Alan's video, he showed one of these bad boys. 1001 albums to hear before you die. This particular edition is 1001 songs to hear before you die, but it's the same basic principle. We've all seen these books, we've all encountered them, maybe in a public library or around a friend's house or something if we don't own one ourselves. Essentially, it's your kind of essential albums to hear during one's lifetime. But unfortunately, well, not really unfortunately necessarily, but you get the same kind of stuff popping up over and over again. The Clash London Calling, Nirvana Nevermind, Radiohead, Beatles, Dylan, Stones. We've all heard this stuff 1,000 times before. We all know how great that stuff is. But it's quite rare that you get things that are a bit more unusual. It tends to be sort of a popularity contest, really. And then also, same as your sort of typical Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time lists, they'll throw in things that are just kind of trendy at the time. So, like, for example, like a 2022 Rolling Stones top 500 list will have, like, Harry Styles in the top 50 just because it was trendy at the time. I mean, maybe it is still trendy, I don't know. But stuff which isn't really necessarily that worthy of 1001 albums to hear before you die. And the idea with this is that, we're bringing forward albums which are absolutely fantastically brilliant, equally as good as any record you're going to find in a book like this, but that is never spoken about and is not quite as celebrated in such a widespread way. So the idea for the video is to come up with 5 albums which you really do deem to be worthy of a book like this. I've found many worthy contenders, but I think I've found 5 which I think I'd really like to share, and I do think are quite eclectic, and I think some of you people should really check out if you don't already know them. So the first record I'm going to show today is Ulrich Schnaus with Faraway Trains Passing By, released in 2001. This is one of my favourite electronic records of all time. To give you a sort of feel for what it sounds like, it's kind of a blend of sort of early Aphex Twin with a bit of Boards of Canada, maybe Kraftwerk, perhaps a bit of shoegaze influence in there somewhere, My Bloody Valentine, perhaps a bit of Sigur Rós. This was originally only released in Ulrich's home country of Germany, but it was subsequently released in other regions. It's kind of an ambient record, but it's beat-driven, but it just has such a sort of sunny, optimistic, beautiful, relaxed sound. This particular edition has got 3 discs. It's far more expanded than the original track list, but the bonus tracks that they give you are equally as good as the main album tracks, actually maybe better, I'd argue. So you got to listen to the expanded edition, but if you really want to listen to one track to get a feel for this, I would recommend the track Nobody's Home. Absolutely glorious track. I think this should be considered a classic and no one ever talks about it, so there you go. Give it a go. Ulrich Schnaus, Faraway Trains Passing By. It should be a classic, but it isn't. Next pick of the day, we have Edgar Winter with Entrance. This is an absolute masterpiece from 1970. Yeah, this is one of my favourite albums of all time. This guy, Edgar Winter, he was the younger kind of kid brother of Johnny Winter, who was a very famous blues guitar player. Johnny Winter signed a very expensive record contract in the late 60s with CBS. Edgar played a lot of the instruments on those albums that he released, which caught the attention of the people at CBS, which allowed him to kind of get his foot in the door and produce this record. It's just totally unique. I haven't heard anything like it. It's almost like a progressive rock kind of odyssey of jazz and blues and gospel and psychedelic, you name it. He does everything on here. I mean, the first side of this record really is kind of like it's almost like a portfolio showing everything this guy can do. And the whole record just has really perfect, like, slick musicianship throughout. Someone online said that this album is so unique it should be up there with the likes of, Plastic Ono Band, John Lennon, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. It really should be up there, but it's never spoken about. No one ever talks about this, and it's absolutely incredible. I saw this guy described as like the white Stevie Wonder in a way. Total virtuoso musician, can play every instrument under the sun. So yeah, Edgar Winter Entrance, check it out. Next up, I've gone for a hip-hop record. Blowout, Digable Planets. This is one of my favourite hip-hop albums of all time. Very much kind of in a similar vein to what Tribe Called Quest were doing in a way with that whole kind of jazz rap, jazz hip-hop kind of thing. Where Tribe Called Quest are kind of, more of a sort of relaxed approach to hip-hop, more sort of laid back than your sort of gangster rap. This album takes that to a whole nother level. This is like such relaxing hip-hop. And you can kind of hear the New York summer just baked into this record. It's almost like an ambient record for that particular time and place, you know. These guys relocated to Brooklyn, New York to really kind of soak up that kind of zeitgeist of hip-hop. You know, that was the place to be at the time. And its influences felt very strong on this record. This is almost like like I say, like an ambient hip-hop record, if that was ever a thing. Like, it's almost like elevator music in hip-hop form. That sounds like an insult, but it's a massive compliment. Yeah, it's just one of a kind. There's nothing like it. I think this is considered a classic among you know, hip-hop fans, but you're never going to see it in one of those books. Yeah, this was inspired by the Black Panthers, some of the lyrics on this album, and the artwork was inspired by a Black Panther magazine or something. Blowout comb itself was used for like the hairstyles in those days, like the afros and whatnot. Next record, number 4, we have Annie in Wonderland by Annie Haslam. So Annie Haslam was the lead singer of Renaissance, and this was her first solo venture. It's kind of a Roy Wood album at the same time, really, because he produced it and played so many instruments on this thing. But essentially what you have is a very, very eclectic and quirky pop album from 1977. These guys really weren't afraid to experiment with all kinds of different things and just do things which were sort of eccentric and odd, you know? And not worrying whether it would sell a lot of records or not. If you want to get a feel for what this is like, check out the track Rockalize. It's got like this really strong classical influence, but then it kind of morphs into like this really brilliant sort of 70s sounding TV theme. It's just absolutely fantastic. I discovered this album through being a big fan of Roy Wood. I've always been a fan of his kind of slightly sort of homemade, glued together yet endearing sort of wonky approach to multi-tracking instruments. That influence is really felt on this record. It's, you know, it's almost as much him as it is Annie. And he's a creative dude. I mean, he did this entire artwork himself, you know. It's pretty batshit crazy, to be honest. Like, there's a song on here which has got a very strong, like, Russian influence almost, and Roy Wood found these old balalaikas in an old second-hand music shop, and he plays those on here, and he wanted to give it a real Russian sound. So what he did was he removed the lid of the piano and started whacking the piano with a load of Allen keys to give it that sort of that Russian sound. So you get a sense for the kind of studio experimentation that he was going in for at the time. And yeah, the guy's just got an obsession with collecting like quirky instruments. You know, if anything can... You know, if you can get sound out of anything, Roy can play it, basically. But yeah, a very one-of-a-kind record. Sort of sits on its own, really. I feel like it should be mentioned somewhere. I really do. I think it's a unique piece, to say the least. Final album, 5th album, I've gone for another hip-hop release. Aesop Rock with The Impossible Kid. As far as I'm concerned, this is a modern hip-hop classic. Aesop Rock, this guy has got, like, such an insane, like... delivery and flow with his rapping. He's one of the most interesting rappers out there, and I think he's got like the highest word count of any rapper ever by quite a long way as well. It's just impossible to absorb all of the lyrics because he's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and he's saying so much stuff, so much information goes into all of these songs. It's just ridiculous. It's almost impossible to dissect, but that on its own is fantastic. But then this album goes to whole new levels of great when you consider the instrumentals that are on this album. There are just really, really good, well-constructed hip-hop beats and also really good electronics as well. A lot of very eerie synthesizers that cement that sort of creepy kind of sort of haunting sound that he has on his own. My favourite song on this album, which is one to check out, is a track called Blood Sandwich. Really insane stuff. This record also comes on some very, very funky coloured records. Look at this. Another personal highlight is the track Shrunk, and also a track called Kirby, which is about him getting off of drugs and buying a kitten. I think something that adds to the creepy atmosphere of this album is that when it was initially posted onto YouTube, they posted the album, but for a visual for the album, they posted a like a puppet version of The Shining, like the entire movie of The Shining recreated with like these little finger puppets. But yeah, phenomenal record right here. From 2016, this one. So that was it. 5 records which deserve to be in 1001 albums to hear before you die. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much, Alan, for putting that out there. And I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.